Leadership matters in the work that each of you do. You choose to be leaders every day when you embark on your new opportunities. But leadership matters also at those places where the buttons are pushed and the levers are pulled to open up opportunity, not only for the state of Connecticut, but also for its families and its small businesses. And we have seen leadership express itself time and time again in the congressional leaders that represent us in Washington, D.C. And joining us today is one of our congressional leaders that represents the 2nd District, and that is the Honorable Joe Courtney. Welcome, Congressman.
Well, thank you, Steve, and congratulations to Access Health for organizing this event. Again, I've worked with Steve and James Michelle and John Carbone, who runs the small business program at Access Health for many, many years. And John kept saying, we want to do an event in Eastern Connecticut, and he put on a great event. I mean, this turnout really speaks volumes about the fact that people want to get together and learn certainly about Access Health and opportunities that it can provide, but also looking at the agenda, there's a lot more happening here today, and really congratulate the team for organizing this. Welcome to Southeastern Connecticut. At the end of last year, the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Labor Statistics, issued their labor market data for 2023, and the fastest growing labor market in the state of Connecticut is the Norwich, New London labor market, which I'm looking around the room, I got some familiar faces here. It always hasn't been that way, but we're very excited that this has really become a growth center for the state of Connecticut. It's the 2nd fastest growing labor market in New England, and it's in the top tier nationally in terms of, again, the job market that's here. Obviously, probably the biggest sort of engine for hiring in this region is the Shipyard Electric Boat, which last year hired 5,300 people between Rhode Island in Connecticut, and that's the same target that they have for this coming year. We had the breakfast not too long ago where they announced what their hiring goals were for 2024, and it's 5,200 people. Again, some of that is in the metal trades, a lot of that is in the metal trades, but some of it is in design work and other types of occupations that are there. They, by the way, have a open job fair. They call it Walk-In Wednesday. Every Wednesday up in Groton there, and you don't even have to bring a resume. You should if you wanted to go there, probably, but people can learn about it, and you're seeing the growth of the footprint in terms of parts of Connecticut that people are now coming to this area here to learn about it, and they're going to actually start a Hire Hartford initiative relatively soon in terms of trying to, again, set up job training programs and ways to connect with people in central Connecticut and north central Connecticut, and the same with New Haven. They're again going to be reaching out to that part of the state, because looking at the horizon in terms of the Navy's demand signal, this is not going to be just sort of a spike and then a return to lower levels. It's going to continue really for a decade. The ripple effect it's having in terms of small business growth in the region is obviously somewhat connected to that, and really all of the small employers in this area who have been hiring people or pursuing your dreams and really creating opportunities for people. You should take a bow for being part of that really impressive statistic that the U.S. Department of Labor just announced. And obviously Access Health can really fit into that space in terms of trying to provide people with options for something that is obviously essential for workforce, which is that we still basically in the U.S. have an employer-sponsored insurance system, and Access Health can provide small employers at least with information and options in terms of other health insurance plans and products that might again be affordable and a good fit. The broker community that's here today are a big partner in terms of making that work. I can tell you stories from my office where we've helped small employers connect via brokers for Access Health programs. Some have been farms, dairy farms in eastern Connecticut who, again, had really incredible savings because of the fact that they took that step to pick up the phone and reach out to Access Health. So again, hopefully that good information is being shared with the folks that are here today, particularly the broker community who obviously have their own network of clients that exist out there. Healthcare costs are clearly still an issue for really not for making sure that our growth is sustainable and strong. And one thing I did want to share with you is that in 2022, when we passed the Inflation Reduction Act in Washington, which for the first time finally put the government in a position where it could negotiate lower drug costs. Again, this is something that had been a battle for 60 years in terms of giving the Medicare program that authority to negotiate lower costs. We saw immediate benefits in terms of capping insulin, monthly costs of insulin at $35 a month. That was a 2/3 savings for people who are on Medicare when that happened. And today, right now, the government is in the process of negotiating with 10 different pharmaceutical manufacturers in terms of lower prices for some of the most highly utilized drugs and most expensive drugs for seniors that are out there. Blood thinner medication is right at the top of the list there. But I get asked all the time, well, okay, that is wonderful for people on Medicare. How about the 156 million Americans who are not on Medicare and who work and who are in employer-sponsored plans? And that is a totally valid question. There's legislation which myself and others have introduced called the Lowering Drug Costs for American Families, which would extend precisely the same savings that Medicare is now achieving to other to all the rest of health plans in the U.S., in other words, to employer-based health plans. This is not an insignificant measure. If you talk to the state of Connecticut Department of Insurance, what they will tell you is that when you break down premium requests that come in every year when they have their annual requests from Blue Cross and Connecticut and others, which usually are going up above the rate of inflation, 20% of premium costs are prescription drugs. That used to be only 10%, really not that long ago, but the cost of medications keeps going up faster than inflation. And if there was a way through this measure, through this legislation, to apply those savings that Medicare is going to be achieving to employer-based plans, that wouldn't just lower the rate of growth, that would actually cut premium costs in our nation. And it's something that I think screams out as common sense that we should, again, achieve the same costs for medications that are now starting to, that seniors are starting to enjoy to all people in the U.S. One other thing that I would just share with you is the good news that since the change that happened with the Inflation Reduction Act, some of the other drug manufacturers are now lowering the cost of insulin across the board, not just for seniors. And they also, about a month or so ago, announced that they're going to reduce the cost for inhalers to $35 per prescription, which, as somebody who you may hear, I have a little bit of a raspy voice. I need an inhaler. I've got my albuterol with me all the time, and this sucker costs over $100 in terms of what you get. And I have a congressional health plan, which is not as what people think everything's free. It's not, and these albuterol inhalers are part of that. So reducing the cost of that, which is now over $100 a pop, down to $35, which is what the announcement that came out. And again, all of the major drug manufacturers said they're going to be phasing in a reduction for inhaler costs over the next year during calendar year 2024, shows that this effort in terms of really finally trying to get some common sense rules in place to lower the cost of prescription drugs, which Americans pay 2 times the costs of other countries. Any of you who've traveled overseas, or compared notes with people that who live overseas, will tell you when they look at the price of drugs that we pay in this country versus Europe or Australia or other countries like that. I mean, it's really out of whack. So it's time that we do this. And as I said, it will ripple through the cost of premiums. It will ripple through, the cost of out-of-pocket costs that people are encountering for prescription drugs. And it's an effort which, again, I think is particularly with the cost of living in our country right now, is so important. And in particular, it will help small businesses in terms of having more affordable health insurance products to bring to bear. So again, just want to congratulate Access Health for organizing this event. You can never over-communicate, in my opinion, when you're talking about ways you can help with different access to programs. And I saw Catherine Marks from the Small Business Administration here earlier, who, again, does great work in this region in terms of helping small businesses, and all the other groups that are here today. And as I said, we're on a good roll right now here in southeastern Connecticut with those job growth numbers in our region, but we want to keep that roll going. And the work that you're doing here today is precisely aimed at achieving that. So thank you and have a great conference.
Thank you so much, Congressman Courtney, and I'm so glad that you bring up all of the opportunity in southeastern Connecticut, all the not only the emerging businesses, but all of the industry that's here in this rich part of the state. I was on a tour just the other day with Dr. Cynthia Ritchie from New London Public Schools, where the future workers of those industries are being forged today. It's so exciting to see that opportunity is coming to the state and that we are rising to meet it, not only with you, but with our future workers in the state as well. And speaking of the future, I am so excited to welcome our next guest. You know, the state, in so many ways, is led, it really matters who leads. And who leads the state is a governor and a lieutenant governor that are really committed to everything that we're talking about here today. As she and I were looking at the list of attendees, the list of sponsors, the list of those of you who have joined us, we just marveled at all of the good work that you are doing. And I said, look, you're really the supporter. You're the best supporting actor in this. So welcome, Madam Lieutenant Governor Bysiewicz. Welcome to you.
Stephen, thank you so much. And, oh darn, Joe Courtney is just leaving. Let me just say that he is part of a federal delegation. Joe, can you just right here, just for 30 seconds while Governor Lamont and I brag on you. Thank you for keeping southeastern Connecticut humming. What a pleasure to be there to see the USS Idaho get commissioned and christened. Thank you for bringing so many submarine contracts to eastern Connecticut. And thank you for bringing billions of dollars to our state in infrastructure and ESSER and ARPA funding. You have done a fantastic job for us, and we are really, really grateful. And what a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Connecticut and to Access Health for convening all of us today. And special thanks to our small business leaders who join us. So if you're a small business owner, please stand up. Let's see you. Come on. Stand up. Come on. You've had lunch. Let's see what you look like. Wow. All right, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen the diversity that is Connecticut and that is our small business community. And I know that you may hear all the time that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Truly, they are. 99.4% of the businesses in our state are small, those with fewer than 100 employees, and you employ almost 50% of our workforce here in Connecticut. So you are the heroes of the day. I know because I come from a family of small business owners and have owned a business with my husband as well, that it takes a lot of tenacity and courage and persistence to do what you do. And we appreciate that. We appreciate your persistence. And we're happy to say that small businesses are growing in Connecticut, particularly women-owned small businesses. So the state of Connecticut is here to help you in whatever way that we can. And I'll tell you that the governor, also a small business owner, and I are passionate about helping businesses, small businesses in particular. And one of the biggest challenges that our small businesses have faced over the past decade is the ability to access insurance. It has been so expensive. And so over the past decade, Access Health has cut from almost 10% of the people who are uninsured to just about 5% of the people who are uninsured. So thank you, Access Health, for what you do. And thank you to the insurance brokers who assist in finding the right products for our individuals and our business owners. Our partner agencies are here today. DECD is here, SBA is here. The amazing Women's Business Development Council and Fran Pastore are here. And I'll tell you that during the pandemic, a key partner for us was the WBDC, because they were getting into the hands of small business owners, particularly women-owned business owners, all of the information to get those vital grants, the PPP, the EIDL, all of our small business assistance programs as well. And they have been there helping us to educate women who want to open early childhood centers so that we can get people fully employed across our state. And it's just an honor on behalf of the governor and I to be here with all of you. And please remember to support fellow small business owners, because every dollar that you spend at a small business stays, almost all of it stays right in the community. And we are so appreciative for all the good work that you do. And I hope that you have a very, very successful day here. And it's an honor for the governor and I to represent you every day in Hartford. Thank you so much.
That's wonderful. Another round of applause for our leaders. Speaking of leadership, I'm just so excited to welcome our keynote speaker for today. You know, oftentimes we are asked to talk in so many ways, but those that walk the walk are really the ones that we follow when they lead. And among the most successful among us and the most committed among us to small business is Fran Pastore, the founder and CEO of the Women's Business Development Council. It's a real honor to introduce you today. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that really warm welcome. I am honored to be here among all of you and with many of my colleagues. How many of your heads are spinning right now with all the acronyms that were going around the room earlier today, right? The thing you need to know, I think it's been said so many times this afternoon and this morning, is that we're so blessed to live in a state that really cares about small business. You just heard that from our Lieutenant Governor, who is such a champion. So I'm here to kind of deliver the message to you about how important it is for every one of you to reach out to the resources that are out there for you. And I'm going to start my story by sharing with you the birth of the women's entrepreneurship movement in our country. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that got started. And for the guys in the room, Don't glaze over, because it was really a man who was behind the women that got this entrepreneurial ecosystem launched back in the mid-1980s. So I'm going to share a little history with you about that, tell you a little bit about WBDC, and then hopefully inspire you with a call to action to get out there and get your business the help that it needs and the capital that it needs. So like you, I started the Women's Business Development Council. It's a business. I started it 27 years ago. I had an idea. I saw a need in my community, and luckily for me, that need in my community and my idea aligned at the perfect time. Connecticut at the time in the 1990s, late 1990s, was the only state in the country that did not have a federally funded program to help women entrepreneurs launch and scale small businesses. And when I found myself a single unemployed mom in 1995 and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, the one thing I knew I didn't want to do was to go back to work on Wall Street. I didn't want to commute from Stanford and be away from my children. I wanted to be there, like so many of you, to witness those great moments. And I learned that there was a federal program out there that Connecticut did not access. And right there is when my stars aligned. What I didn't know at the time was the history of why was this program available to states in our country to help women launch and scale small business. What was the history behind that? And I learned that back in the mid-1980s, a group of women, called themselves the Committee of 200, were interested to learn what women-owned small businesses were contributing to our national economy. And they learned that there was no data out there to find out what women were really, what was their economic impact on our national economy. And they approached a United States Senator, John LaFace, who was very interested in their cause. He himself was the father of daughters, had sisters, had a wife. They were small business owners. And he was not, he was really surprised about this. And he led an initiative and helped to pass legislation and get the funding for this Committee of 200 to perform some research and conduct a study. What were women business owners really doing? And what were the limiting factors? Well, the study came back and it revealed that women were starting businesses at twice the rate of their male counterparts, but they lacked the infrastructure to sustain those businesses, to launch them, not only to launch them, but to grow them. They were not accessing capital. They didn't have access to marketing and management techniques and skills. Now, remember, this is the early 80s, so not as many women were attending business school, perhaps, as there are today. And so this information inspired Senator LaFace, and he wrote the legislation, and ultimately a bill passed called the Women's Business Ownership Act of 1988. It's also referred to as HR 5050. That bill did a number of things, but the number one thing that it did was it gave women the ability to access capital in their own name for commercial purposes without having a male co-signer for the first time in United States history. So let's talk about my friend Mary with the food truck who just got funded by M&T Bank. Go, Mary. So imagine Mary has running her business. Things are great. Her business is doing well. Her financial statements look beautiful. Her credit is fantastic. And it's 1987, and she goes to M&T Bank and asks for an expansion loan. Mary, we'll make up a story, is a single mom. She's supporting her 16-year-old son who is in school and has no employment and no income. But the bank says, sorry, Mary, the only way for you to get this loan is if your son co-signs this loan for you. Can you even imagine that happened? And so just a little tidbit, a little side note. It was only 1974 when a woman could get a car loan, a mortgage, or a credit card without having a male co-signer. So that was just one of the things that law did, and it was groundbreaking because why did we not have any data on women-owned businesses? Because they weren't getting ahead. They were micro businesses, and all that has changed. One of the other things that the law did was it created the National Women's Business Council, which is a bipartisan council of 16 women, one appointed by the president, the rest appointed by their congressional delegation every 3 years. The National Women's Business Council kind of monitors and performs research on what's happening for women business owners around the country, and they identify challenges that women may face. We talked a lot earlier about government contracting. For a long time, women business owners represented less than 2% of all government contract vendors. On his way out the door, when President Clinton left office, he challenged, not written, wasn't a mandate, but he challenged, I'd like to see that number increase to 6%. One of the things that the National Women's Business Council did was find out why women were not accessing as many government contracts. What we found was that there was another antiquated law on the books, and the National Women's Business Council worked with Congress to rewrite legislation, and we overturned that law. Today, over 6% of government contracts are going to women entrepreneurs. And then finally, the last thing that this legislation did was it created something called the Women's Business Center Program. And the Women's Business Center Program was designed to help women overcome the obstacles, women business owners, to overcome the obstacles that were identified in that study that that amazing group of 200 women identified in the mid-'80s. And the way to do that was to establish in every state an educational organization that would help women do what my colleague Samantha talked about, and Catherine and Sheila and Lewis talked about earlier. Provide technical assistance to help women write business plans, understand what a marketing plan was, to grow their business. And here, fast forward, it's 1995, I'm thinking about what am I going to do to take care of my 2 kids and keep a roof over my head, and I wanted to do something that I was super passionate about. And I find out that Connecticut is the only state in the country that had not accessed this federal funding to launch a women's business center. And that's how the business of the Women's Business Development Center, Business Council was born in 1997. So like many of you, I didn't expect to be here 27 years later. I thought, this is a great idea. I want to get this thing up and running. But before I knew it, we found out that we were pioneers. Nobody else was doing the kind of work that we were doing in our state. And 27 years later, I couldn't be more proud to be standing before you and share with you some of the important work that we've done in the last 27 years. So things were going along really nicely for about 25 years, 26 years. And then the pandemic hit. And as you might have heard the Lieutenant Governor say, we were called upon by our governor, by our congressional delegation, to be part of the COVID response team. And it was an honor for myself and all of my colleagues because we were on the ground and we were working with small businesses, helping them access the PPP loan, the grants that were out there, among other things. And that was early on in the pandemic. A few months later, we get a call from the governor, and he said, Fran, I have ARPA funds, and we cannot close down our childcare facilities. We need to help these facilities. Can you help us get about $10 million into the hands of childcare providers and early childhood educators in our state so that they can keep their doors open? And before I knew it, overnight, my colleagues and I became grant makers. We had never done this before. But like you, small business owners, opportunities present themselves and you pivot and you learn and you figure out how to do it. So very quickly, we were able to get some software. We had a team of folks that had never really done this before, but we put a program together. And very quickly, within 3 months, we put $6 million in the hands of childcare providers in our state so that they can keep their doors open and that first responders could get back to work. From there, I guess the Lamont administration thought we did a really good job, and the next thing I know, the Lieutenant Governor is calling to say, that program worked out so well, I think we need to do something for all small businesses, not just childcare providers. What do you think? And of course, I went back to my colleagues. They thought it was a great idea, but how are we going to do this? So the governor challenged us. If you think it's a great idea, make it happen. And whatever you guys raise to put out on the street in the hands of small business owners, we'll match. Within 6 months, we developed something called the Ignite Grant Program. The Ignite Grant Program is still running today. We started with a $1 million investment from financial institutions around the state. I think somebody here is from Liberty Bank, one of our donors. Thank you. We raised over $1 million within 6 months. The state matched that. We provided $10,000 grants to businesses to help them pivot their business throughout the state. That program became so successful. You heard my friend Sheila Hummel from the Department of Economic and Community Development talk about a small business RFP that was put out in 2022. We applied for that RFP. We were awarded $10 million. We have $1 million a year to put out on the street for women business owners in the form of $10,000 grants. To date, we have provided nearly $10 million in grants to women around the state, nearly 1,000 women around the state. Our goal is to put small infusions of capital where it's needed most in the hands of the smallest businesses, our Main Street businesses, so that they can then do, again, Mary, I'm using you, you're my poster child today, so that they can do what Mary did, go out and leverage that grant, learn more about their business, articulate their financial statements and their business concept to a lender, and secure traditional capital. We have offices in 5 cities in the state: Stamford, New Haven, New London, Waterbury, and we just were fortunate enough to receive another federal grant to open an office in Hartford, Connecticut. Thank you. Now, for the men in the room, there is some funding that we have that's available for you if you happen to live in Waterbury, Torrington, or New London. We do have grant funds available for businesses that are based in those communities. So, you've heard a lot today about the services that you can access in the form of kind of the nuts and bolts of your business, right? But what I want to talk about a little bit is those kind of less tangible things that you can get from myself and my colleagues around the state. You've heard us talk about SBDC, that's the Small Business Development Center. You've heard us talk about SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives, and the Women's Business Centers, that's us. We're all part of under the SBA umbrella, led by the indefatigable Catherine Marks. I don't know where she is. So, courage. To become an entrepreneur, to open your own small business, the grueling hours, the exhaustion, you really have to have courage. And what I would share with all of you is that I found courage when I started WBDC that I never knew I had, right? You're so determined to do something. You're so passionate about your idea. So I would say to you to keep your entrepreneurial mindset in check at all times. Take those risks, calculated risks. Be nimble and be ready to pivot and change, right? When you get $6 million thrown at you and you have no idea how you're gonna do what the leader of your state just asked you to do, but you figure out, I got a great team around me, I can figure it out, we can make it work. So have the courage of your convictions and give yourself a chance and take a shot. Do it with the help of all the resources around you that you've heard about today. One of the things those resources offer you is a community. Every one of us, all of the SBA resources, and my other colleagues around the state who are not part of the SBA but are part of the small business ecosystem in Connecticut, we're offering you a community of like-minded individuals. We all want you to succeed, and all of us are in it for the same reason. We want you to do well, because when you do well, the economy does well, our state does well, and we all win. So our community offers you advocates, sponsors, mentors, counselors. Take advantage of it. Something else we all offer is connection. Being an entrepreneur can sometimes be really lonely, and you need to have those intimate connections with people who you can rely on. People who may have the skills that you don't have. So be honest with yourself, be open with yourself, and identify people for you that can help you grow your business. I know how I rely on my team. I know exactly who I am. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I asked Sam if she can please keep an eye out and listen to my voice and bring me some water. Thank you. And then confidence. Believe in yourself and your ideas. It's something else that we do at WBDC, and again, so do my colleagues around the state. Sorry. Thank you. But we provide this community for you to help you build your confidence, right? All those technical skills, all of that financial acumen that we offer to you, but it's really about confidence. And this is especially important for women. For us at WBDC, we offer you a female-focused environment. We've been there, we understand it, we get it. We want to help you build your confidence so that you can access the capital, which is still the biggest obstacle for women. Mary's story is not unique. It takes a woman an average of 6 attempts at securing capital from a traditional lender before she finally gets a yes. So again, as Sam said earlier, don't give up. Keep asking. But be prepared, right? Be prepared by coming to your colleagues around the state who are here to support you. 95% of what we all do is free of charge. So please reach out, give us a call. We want to help you seize those opportunities to help you grow your business, contribute to the economic vitality of this great state. And as a reminder, all of these programs are funded with your tax dollars. So go out there and take advantage of them. And for the guys in the room, I'll close by saying, we always say real men come to WBDC, so don't be shy. Thanks everyone, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you so much, Fran. And thank you for reminding us of those moments in the pandemic that just kept reaffirming your faith in humanity. During the pandemic, at my former gig at the commission, we did a series called Small Business Matters. And what we thought at first, when we thought of this, we thought, let's highlight those small businesses that are struggling to get them some resources. But what we actually learned during the series was that it was those small businesses that were keeping the economy moving, logistics, resources moving, all the things that you just described. So what it showed us is that there is no resume for what you do. But what you do is some of the most powerful work in the state. And for that, we thank you, and we thank Fran for the support that you lend in this work. Thank you. So I think we're wrapping up, or at least we're wrapping up this part of our conversation together. There is going to be a speed dating session outside with a lot of our resources. But before we do that, and before I say goodbye, if I may invite Al Marino to come to the stage. Al is the Director of Corporate and Community Giving at Connecticut Foodshare, our friends that are still here. So Al, come and give us an update. Tell us about what you're doing.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. It's been a wonderful, enjoyable day. You know, we've seen some old friends and we've met some new friends today. So I really want to thank the Small Business Association of Connecticut for having us, particularly Access Health Connecticut, and our friends at Mince and Hoke. Thank you so much. You've been great hosts. And let's give all of them a round of applause. Just kind of want to let you know a little bit about Connecticut Foodshare. Probably many of you are familiar with us. You may remember us from the days before we merged. We used to be Foodshare in Connecticut, up in Hartford and Talon counties, and there was Connecticut Food Bank down on the shoreline, and then into Wallingford for the remaining 6 counties of Connecticut. 3 years ago, we merged, and we rebranded as Connecticut Foodshare. We are now one food bank for the entire state of Connecticut. And we're doing some incredible work, but we can't do the work that we do without all of you and all of the people that really support us week in and week out. Believe it or not, the need is extremely great. It has gotten better since COVID, but the numbers are not back to where they were pre-COVID. Right now, in the state of Connecticut, based on what we hear from our heads at Feeding America, of which we're part of their network, there are over 400,000 people in the state of Connecticut, one of the wealthiest states in this country, that are food insecure. That's about 1 out of every 10 in the population. And 1 out of 9 are children. So that is really, really sad and scary at the same time. Think about in a few more weeks, many of us who have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, they'll be out of school. And many of those kids eat throughout the school year, every day at school, thanks to the Connecticut state government. However, they're not going to have that opportunity all summer long. So the need is great. We have many people that have come to this state as well, unexpectedly, so the lines are long. So we are, believe it or not, we're distributing about 1 million pounds of food every week from our facility to about 500 partner programs around the state, food pantries, transitional housing, homeless shelters, soup kitchens, as well as our mobile pantries, of which number about 120. So about 1 million pounds of food a week. We cannot do this on our own. The food that we're receiving is getting less and less from the big retailers because of supply chain issues and inflationary pressures. So we need the help. So please, the money today that has come in, and I'm told it's about $1,800. Every dollar that we receive provides about 2 meals. So already we're able to provide an additional 3,600 meals, so that you should really be complimented on that. If you want to continue to give, you could see the folks from Access Health or from small business here today, or you could go to our website, ctfoodshare.org, and you can make a donation on your own. It goes a long, long way on behalf of all those people in Connecticut that we help, and all of us at Connecticut Foodshare. We really send each of you a heartfelt thank you. Thank you so much. Come and see us outside. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, for all the work that you do, and I know that Foodshare still has a presence out back. So as you're doing your vendor speed dating, please find it in your hearts to continue to give to Foodshare, but also to continue to work toward ending hunger in Connecticut, wherever it may be. So thank you all for that. In closing, on behalf of the board of Access Health Connecticut, I'd like to thank our CEO, James Michel. Speaking of leadership, thank you, James, for all that you do in stewarding this wonderful organization, and John Carbone for all the work that you do as well. Please go out, get to know each other, get to know the vendors, and good fortune for all of you as you continue into this year. Take care.